One thing is that you're an entrepreneur.
Correct. Try to be.
What does it take to start a wrestling company?
Well, I mean, first of all, the biggest one is the asset, the capital. Television's expensive, arenas, buying the equipment, contracts for the guys, liability insurance, all very expensive. Something that has to be planned out. And when it's done haphazardly, you can see like with Paul Heyman how we did ECW. By all stretch of the imagination, ECW was a very successful company, except we didn't have anybody planning the business side. So we had an influx of capital every 3 weeks from the arena, which was very valuable to us. But long term, you can, if you have $250,000, you can only spend it one time. So you can't give $250,000 to Rob Van Dam, and that $250,000 to Shane Douglas, and that $250,000 to Sabu over and over again. Sooner or later it catches up with you, and that's what happens. So to start the company, as you see with Dixie Carter and Panda Energy and TNA, over $400 million dumped into that company so far. Poor management can create a black hole. When it's managed properly, that company, for what they've attained and the scant level that they've gotten to, that should have been something in the range of 20 to maybe 50 million. But it's an exorbitantly expensive field to get into. Even being scripted, the networks, it used to be the networks would pay to put the show on. Now they want you to pay to get on. Right. So it's very expensive, and another one is time. It's just there's only 24 hours in the day. So when you have 50 guys calling you, and lawyers calling you about those 50 guys, and other partners calling, you could spend literally 26 hours a day on the phone if you wanted to or take the time to. Secretaries, I mean, the staff is, it's a huge undertaking.
I've always thought that it's probably easier to run a marginally successful wrestling company than one that starts to catch fire like ECW did. Because what's going to happen is now your talent is going to have pay expectations.
Sure.
Competition can offer those pay expectations. Whereas if you did it, you're walking the plank.
Yeah, right.
So how do you prepare to be one of those companies that might catch on, still be able to stay solvent, and pay guys what they're worth?
Right. There's a wider variance on that, obviously. First of all, like ECW, like I said a second ago, there's only so much money to pay out. When you become a more successful company, the big boys would and did come and pick off the Tazes, the Sandmans, the Shane Douglases,
right,
the Sabus, which leaves that company vulnerable. But those guys, pretty much everybody that was in ECW, had they been offered even a competitive contract, not more or even equal, would have stayed because we were very loyal to the company. Paul had a huge asset in that. The people, the fans say, well, you guys drank the Kool-Aid. It was because most of us had experience in the other companies that we didn't want to run that kind of lifestyle. So ECW was much more accommodating to what we wanted out of the business. And obviously the connection to the fans. The thing, I guess what you're working toward is this new company. The nesting of this new company is being backed by a man who's involved with LinkedIn, Lycos, very successful businessman. So he'll be handling that side of it, thank God, because when you're trying to book talent and write the storylines and everything else, again, there's only so many hours in the day, and the eventual plan for this new company is going to be 22 to 35 hours per month of content, which is probably at least double what Vince is doing right now or has done at his peak. So it's going to necessitate a hell of a lot of writers, very creative people, loyal talent. And to do that, this businessman, who we can't reveal yet, but this businessman is planning on the health care, the pension plans, 401ks, revenue streaming, that should be the fish hook with the worm on it out to the talent. So we have to wait and see.
Let's take this story back to Extreme Rising. Extreme Reunion and then Extreme Rising.
Right.
Tell me about the genesis of Extreme Reunion,
okay,
how it became Extreme Rising, and what went wrong.
I still believe that the concept was good. The original plan, of course, was to launch this Extreme Rising company with an Extreme Reunion being the front end, because the fans have an affinity for the Shane Douglases, the New Jacks, the Sandmans, and all the original guys.
So there was always a long-term plan.
Right, but not long-term for the original talent. The original talent we would sweep back into the back as agents, writers, whatever.
Oh, okay.
The way I would put it at the time is, as the kids stand up, we would stand down. Okay. So that was the original intent. And I think the business plan was still solid. What eventually happened was, like happens most times in stuff in this business, certain other partners sort of wanted to do like what I call mission creep. If your job is say the video, and the production, the post-production. Mine's the promoting and booking. You need to stay on your side of the table and take care of your job. I'll stay on my side and take care of this job. It became mission creep where this partner wanted to do the booking or interject in the booking. And with all due respect to anybody out there, anybody that's been in this business knows it takes a long time to really get a wrap around it, to learn the system and how it works and how to develop a storyline and lay it out. It's very condescending to guys like me that have been in the wrestling for 35 years to have somebody that's never been in it say, you're doing it wrong. We should do it this way. When I take my car to a mechanic, I don't sit there and watch over his shoulder. Oh, you're doing that wrong.
Right.
Turn that the other way, you know.
Well, who's there to say, stand down? That's not your. Who was the one that should have kept those parameters?
There was really no structure ever put to the company. That was the other issue. Cody Michaels and I kept saying we need to put structure. We need to have it delineated. What is your job? What is my job? What is everybody's job? And the more we would say it, it never got done. So it then became this mission creep where this one was stepping into this one's responsibilities. This one wasn't doing his responsibilities, and so this one was taking that over, and it became a moving target. You know, I know that my job is to call the talent, book the storylines. But now I'll call this wrestler. Well, this partner already called me and says this. Right. This partner offered me that, and so it just became this, mixed signals all the way across.
What did you understand your responsibilities to be?
My responsibilities were chiefly the talent, writing the storylines, hiring the talent, agenting when it needed to be done. Some guys don't need to be agented. I would never try to agent, say like a Terry Funk match, for instance, or a Sabu match. But trying to think the exact timeline is the one that happened, because it's so confusing because it was so ubiquitous. Mm-hmm. There was so much going on. But when we had, at one point, New Jack, two of the partners had given New Jack a considerable advance on his pay and had given him, I think, 50 DVDs to sell at the shows, and even bought his medication for him 1 month or something. Now, those were things that, to me, should have been taken to the committee of five to say, well, I vote for it, I vote against it, whatever. But these two partners did it on their own, and now the five partners are figuring out how to cover that. How do we get the money back out of New Jack to do that? And it just became this sort of litany of things through the course of the year. I still believe the concept was good, but it obviously now been soured. When you're not paying back, you buy a ticket on the internet. If we cancel the show, by law, we have to give your money back. Mm-hmm. And I started hearing across the country from different people saying, yeah, I bought 2 tickets for the Pittsburgh show and I never got my money back. I got 2 from the canceled shows WrestleMania last year and didn't get my money back. I never dealt with the money because I never wanted anybody to say there's $10,000 missing or whatever else. Mine was simply in the wrestling side of things. So when I started hearing that and then couldn't get verification, it would be very vague answers. Well, we're working on it, or I've already got to deal up with this guy or whatever. It just became, instead of just saying, yeah, we paid this guy back, we paid this guy back, which is the way it should have been. My concern about last August, when we couldn't get a reconciliation on the Pittsburgh show. The Pittsburgh show brought somewhere in the middle of $80,000, $85,000 all told. We were told that the show cost $54,000. Now, I've promoted a lot of shows, including pay-per-views, that didn't cost $54,000. But even if it was, there should have been at least $30,000 left over, seed money for the next shows. There was no money left over. So I can't say with positivity that I know somebody lifted money or took money, but there's obviously from the addition on the page, there's money missing somewhere.
Either way, there should have been a balance sheet that you could have looked at.
Right. That's how businesses are run. When I ask for reconciliation sheets, it shouldn't be, what's that? Or I'll get it to you later or something. And when that started coming up and rearing its head, Cody Michaels and I have known each other since college, said, we're just going to pull back out of this thing because something's going to go south here very quickly. And we did it quietly, as to not hurt the entity. And then when Steve O'Neill kept putting my name out there and using my name, and he knew I wasn't going to be there, Sabu wasn't going to be there, Matt Hardy wasn't going to be there. And his answer to me was, well, it says card subject to change. And I said, that's not how you do business, Steve. So we pulled back out of it. The last round of shows that he had ended up canceling in, February and March, I believe, he had asked if I would make an appearance on one of the shows. What's hometown, Pittsburgh, I would travel for it. My agreement with him was, I'll appear as long as we do it this way, not advertised, just come in because I believe in working the storyline right. When I go to the store one day and I see the lady, hey stranger, how you doing? She hands me a postcard. I look at the postcard and the card's this big and my picture's this big. I told her to throw them away, and if anybody comes in to ask for tickets because I'm going to be there, you tell them I'm not going to be there. And informed Steve O'Neill very quickly that I wouldn't be there. and got no response back. And there were a million, we could go on for part of the whole length of this thing about it, but there were a lot of discrepancies behind the scene that didn't add up.
Is it safe to say that it's impossible to do something by committee like this? Doesn't there need to be one Hefe?
There has to be somebody that has to be the chief, absolutely, to make the call. And that started rearing its head very early in Extreme Rising. And the way we were asking on it was, let's delineate story or position and parameter. What is your job? What is my job? And it never got done. And to be fair to these guys, they've never done wrestling, so, or anything of this magnitude. So to sit there and say, it would be like me walking in to get my car fixed, the mechanic, and again saying, no, you don't do it like that, you do it like this. Cody Michaels and I are the guys that have over 3 decades experience. Over 67 years, I believe it is, between the two of us in the business. That doesn't mean we know everything, but it certainly would tell you that if you don't know what you're doing, maybe you want to defer to the guys that do know what they're doing. And when it just kept not happening, it just became a point for me that, look, I can't book a storyline, and 12 months down the road, I know where the storyline's going to. And you come in the second and third month and change the storyline over here. I still have it over here in my head. Right. So I know where I'm going with my storyline, but if you hijack it to a different direction, sometimes you can't get back to the track that you were on. And it just became that over and over again until we just decided, with all the discrepancies, to pull back.
It was mismanagement.
Right.
Is what did that in. It wasn't the concept, wasn't the talent, it was mismanagement.
Right.
Okay.
The talent, for the most part, was great. I mean, very good, and the response from the crowds were very good. We had, the houses that we did, 1,400 in Pittsburgh, 2,200 the first time in the Armory, 1,500 the second time. Those houses were very substantial, and those kind of numbers would sustain the company, at least until we could grow it. My original concept for the company was, we hit the first round of ECW, former ECW towns, the Chicagos, the Poughkeepsies, Buffaloes, Fort Lauderdales. We hit each of those places one time before we go to any place 2 times, because we spread it out to everybody, like all those fans that haven't been able to partake, like in Fort Lauderdale, that we give them the same chance that we're giving these other towns. And very quickly, 2 of the partners wanted it to be just Pittsburgh and Philadelphia because it was easier. Well, if you want to run a company that way, then you're chopping off a bunch of revenue stream. And it was clear that the ship was just sort of meandering around, and nobody could get the ship steered straight.